Hello guys and girls of course. 20 July 1969. The lunar module of Apollo 11 mission landed on Moon. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were in it. After the landing, Neil Armstrong tried to open the door to get down to Moon. It wasn't easy opening this door due to the high pressure, but he successfully opened it after a little struggle. He tried to get down to the Moon with his heavy spacesuit. The exit wasn't spacious. So by mistake he hit the top and a piece of lunar module broke off. Neither of them were aware of this because of lack of air, of course. The sound didn't travel. They didn't hear any sound. But this broken piece was very crucial. It was an asset for arming the switch. Without this switch, the lunar module couldn't take off again, and they couldn't return to Earth. Unaware of this, Neil Armstrong go out and stepped on the moon's surface. He became the first man to step on the moon and said that word. It happened. Today, more than 50 years later, many people refuses to believe that human had gone to moon. People cook up their theories of their own. Today, more than 50 years later, people refuses to believe that human had gone to moon. To claim the entire Apollo mission was a phrase to put about America. They filmed the scene on Earth and lied to the world. How else do you explain the flag fluttering without it? Come, let us understand today in this story. In today's video, all the Indians running, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Tranquility Base here, Eagle has landed. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Friends, you would have surprised to know the real reason for Apollo mission was planned was a war, specifically a Cold War, fought between North America and Soviet Union. Both countries were engaged in a space race. In 1957, Soviet Union became the first country to launch first artificial satellite. Its name was Sputnik 1, and it was the first man-made object to be placed on Earth's orbit. The American government was shocked to see the Soviet Union getting ahead. Months later, in 1958, America launched the satellite as well. But 3 years later, in 1961, America got other shocked. Soviet astronaut Yuri Gagarin, the first person to go to space. Soviet beats America once again. 1 week later, the President of America, John F. Kennedy, wrote a letter to Vice President dated 20th April 1961. He asked the President how they could defeat the Soviet Union by putting laboratory in space. Are working 24 hours a day on existing programs? If not, why not? Are we making the maximum efforts? Asking of it, there was another space program that could be achieved quickly, that would produce cinematic results and give them the lead in the race. He got the answer some days later because he soon realized that the next big step would be to put humans to the moon. On 25th May 1961, in the famous speech, he promised the world that he would send humans to moon before the end of this decade. Not only this, he also promised to get the back to Earth safely. He also promised to get humans back to Earth safely. Because of this decade, before this decade is out, the landing on moon, and returning him safely to the earth. For many, this would be unbelievable announcement. Friends, imagine 1961. There was no smartphones, no internet, there wasn't any GPS technology. The computers were slow and old. In such time, he promised to send humans to moon. For this, over next 5 years, he provided $9 billion to additional funding to space programs. The entire space agency engaged in fulfilling this aim. Mere months later, the results began. First, they tested rockets that would use to leave the Earth. Then heat shields and then command modules are tested. They are being able to resist heat. That command modules, heat shields. Then propulsion system of their service module from 1963 to 1967. Many man tested carried out. The rocket didn't carry any humans during the test. In February 1967, they planned first manned test in which astronauts will go up in space in the rocket. This was Apollo 1 mission, and from that Apollo got its name. In February 1967, they planned a manned test in which astronauts will go to space in rockets as Apollo 1 mission. But during this test on Earth, on 27 February 1967, the cabin caught up fire, and the three astronauts preparing to space died on the fire. After this painful event, the NASA didn't lose. Instead, continued further testing as Apollo 4, 5, and 6 were all manned mission for further testing. In October 1968, Apollo 7 mission was launched, and once again they attempted to send humans to space. This was successful. Only 2 months later, in December 1968, Apollo 8 mission was launched, in which 3 astronauts were sent to moon. 3 months later, in March 1969, Apollo 9 mission was launched. In this mission, lunar module was tested. The part of the spacecraft was successfully landed on moon. And 2 months later, in May 1969, was Apollo 10 mission. In this mission, 3 astronauts had to almost everything to purpose the Apollo 11 mission, except the moon landing part. Look at the speed at which NASA was launching these missions, each one after another. In gap of 2 to 3 months, the new mission was tested. A new mission was a new thing, testing the rockets, spacecraft, going to moon, and on 16 July 1969, Apollo 11 was launched. 3, 2, 1, go! All engines are running, lift off. 32 minutes past the hour, lift off of Apollo 11. 3 astronauts were part of this mission. 38-year-old Commander Neil Armstrong, he led this mission. The pilot of the command module, Michelet Collins, and the pilot of lunar module, Buzz Aldrin. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and some famous names. But Michelet Collins isn't very popular. The reason for this is very interesting. I will tell you later in this video. The spacecraft Apollo 11 mission, the 3 main parts: command module, service module, and the lunar module. First 2 are collectively known as CSM and command service module. They aim to detach the lunar module, it land to the moon, and to return the lunar module have to be launched a attached with CSM. To enable astronauts to return to Earth, to launch this spacecraft, Saturn V5 rocket was to be used. Before this launch, the rocket was loaded with 1 million gallons of kerosene, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. The weight of this rocket was 3 million kg. With this help, the spacecraft reached the Earth's orbit. It took less than 10 minutes to reach the Earth's orbit. Then they made about 1.5 revolution around the Earth. They communicated their permission to begin translunar injection. That is, taking the spacecraft of Earth towards Moon's orbit. To leave the Earth orbit, Saturn V5 rocket was used. This was the third stage of the rocket. The event took place within 5 hours of launch. But to actually reach the Moon, it took astronauts awaited in the spacecraft. They ate, slept, and took pictures of themselves and their surroundings. 19th July 1969. After traveling almost 4,100 kilometers. 400,000. After traveling almost 400,000 kilometers, a spacecraft reached the Moon's orbit. Here it was supposed to split into two: the command module and service module. The command module from the lunar module, Michael Collin in command module. This is the part named Columbia, and the lunar module named Eagle. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in it. The thing is that command module was tasked to remain in the orbit. Only the lunar module was going to land on the Moon. It meant only Neil Armstrong and Aldrin get the chance to get a step on the Moon. But even so, Michael Collins was part of this mission. Was perhaps the most important one, because the lunar module was supposed to attach to CSM without Michael Collins. Because the lunar module was supposed to reattach to CSM without Michael Collins. Armstrong and Aldrin could not return safely if Michael Collins wasn't there. Around 8 p.m. the lunar module was going to land on the Moon but landed exactly 8:10 p.m. Alarm went off. Neil Armstrong and Aldrin didn't know the meaning of the alarm. They asked the mission control and thought to do the next mission. They asked the control what did that alarm meant. The mission control told them to ignore and keep it going. They figured out 12:02 was a warning. That alarm was a warning. The processing system of the guidance of the computer was overloaded. Thankfully, the computer was designed in a way that the essential programs which would be critical for the mission would continue in spite of overloaded. The control installed the program of automatic landing, automatically land the lunar module on surface. At the height of 150 meters, Neil Armstrong took over the control. He noticed that lunar module was going to land at a place where huge boulders and rocks were there. The landing spot was changed then, and they decided on another 4 miles away from the actual landing spot, Buzz Aldrin checked the fuel indicator. Only 5% fuel remained. 100 feet, half down, 9 forward. मतलब 5%. Okay. Seeing the level of the fuel, the mission control initiated shutdown. The countdown to decided. Seeing the low level fuel indication, the mission control initiated a shutdown. The countdown decided they should land and abort the mission. Now we are at the critical fuel stage. And that's why the 60-second call is given. And then 30-second call. Finally, literally the last minute, only 30 seconds remaining in this countdown. Neil Armstrong sent a radio message to Earth. Roger that, the Eagle has landed successfully. Neil Armstrong put on his spacesuit and opened the door. This moment was Then Neil Armstrong opened the door and stepped on the moon. The moment watched by 650 million people on television. The first man, the first words televised to the world. Aldrin followed the moon's surface for the next 2.5 hours. They collected samples, dust, rocks, photographs, set up several scientific instruments as well. Although it's true that Cold War was the reason for this moon landing, but because moon landing was planned, it was a huge achievement also obviously. They carried scientific instruments with them. So were several scientific So there were several scientific objectives of this mission as well. They set up a television camera to the moon to transmit signals to Earth. They took a device with them to measure the solar winds reaching the moon. They installed a device laser beam on Earth. उसके बाद बहुत कुछ. We came a peace for all mankind. If you want to know the details of the landing events, I will recommend that video above in the corner. You will see. If you don't, okay. The lunar module had to remain on the moon for 21 hours. After this, it had to take off once again and attach to CSM. But to go up, they needed propulsion, and for that they needed engine. Both Armstrong and Aldrin were unaware about the switch of the engine was broken off. While they were getting out, I untold this at the beginning of the video. They came back to lunar module. They realized what happened. They informed the mission control about this damage, and they looked for the solution to resolve the situation. They come up with interesting solution to the problem. Now that exactly is the switch. Switch is basically broke. Switch is basically works to complete critical circuits. Because Aldrin realized that the circuit is broken, they look for something that could be used to complete the circuit once again. When he hooked up, he noticed ballpoint pen. He used the ballpoint pen to complete the circuit, and Buzz Aldrin realized that if the circuit is broken, they looked for something that could be used to complete the circuit once again. Then he looked around and he noticed his ballpoint pen. He used that ballpoint pen to complete the circuit and to reignite the engine. Finally, the lunar module was attached to the CSM and the three astronauts turned off towards Earth, and that was it. And hope you like such videos, and thank you. Peace.